Hello and welcome to episode 17 of our monthly Election Connection video series. I'm Scott Jarrett.
And I'm Ray Valenzuela, and we are your election directors for Maricopa County. Each month, we have a new episode of Election Connection,
where you, the viewers, can submit questions to us so we can answer those.
And today's questions for this episode came from our October Just the Facts newsletter.
And you can sign up for that newsletter at justthefacts.vote. And so are you ready, Ray?
I think so.
Are 90-day cards mailed for every election, or is it just the general election?
Again, very inquisitive, very good question, and it's actually applicable because we're in the middle of a November 7th jurisdictional. And then, of course, coming in 2024, several elections, many of them countywide. So the quick answer is actually no, they're not mailed for every election. But let me explain what those 90-day cards are primarily for and why they're not mailed for every election. So the 90 card is prescribed for in state law, ARS 16540D. For all of you buffs that want to Google that, you can go see the actual statute. And it states that not less than 90 days out before an election scheduled, and it actually says polling place election, but we use vote centers, scheduled for March or August. It infers that if you're having a polling place election, you're also utilizing what is known as the active early voting list, meaning only voters that are on that ABLE are eligible to get a ballot sent to them. So this 90-day card prescribed for in law is saying when that occurs or those types of elections occur, meaning a primary, a general, or presidential preference coming up in 2024 March, those elections are held as a ABLE type election where only the voters that are eligible or on that list would get that ballot. So that 90-day card is preemptively sent specifically to those voters, and it is and has a purpose. It's outlined in that statute, as I mentioned. It's very lengthy as far as all the details and why. That's why when you get this card, you'll see it has a lot of information on it. It's because we have to comply with what is prescribed for, which is the notice shall include the date of the election, obviously, the date your ballot will be mailed, the address where it will be mailed to show you that if you have a P.O. box, it'll actually confirm that that's where it's going to be. Also, for primary elections that are partisan primaries, it allows ABLE voters who are unaffiliated, independent. We also must allow for them to pick a party, if you will. They are allowed independents in a primary, August primary, can select the party ballot they want. So that's another option that has to be provided through this notice. And it also has to provide a means for the voter to do the following: to change their mailing address to another address in the county, to update their resident address, as long as they're currently registered, which they would be to be on ABLE, to a address within the county. And last but not least, to request a ballot to not be sent at all, meaning they could just for this election or to remove themselves completely from ABLE. So it does have all of those prescribed for options that are enable the voter to know this is coming, the ballot is being sent, but also there's a kind of departmental selfish thing because part of that also prescribes for that these notices must be sent by non-forwardable mail. Why? Because part of that is the notice, if it's returned undeliverable, then the county recorder can take the steps necessary to contact the voter, to get that update, send them a notice, or let's say they moved out of state and we don't have a forwarding, then we will able to move that voter to inactive, which means their address is not valid, and begin that list maintenance process prescribed for 16166A. So again, for all you statutory buffs that like to Google stuff. But it tells us that we must do this list maintenance. But again, in a selfish way, it also, at 90 days out, prevents us from mailing a ballot for those records that are known to not be at that current address. Again, as we speak, somebody's moved, somebody's changed. So it's not always 100%, but it is an attempt 90 days out to clean the records as much as possible before a ballot is sent. Now, back to the thing of the no. So then when they're not sent for every election, which is elections that they're not, the upcoming November 7th jurisdictional and all local elections, non-countywide, are handled as 100% all ballot by mail elections. What does that mean? There's not a need for me to send you a 90 card saying, hey, expect this ballot, because everybody's getting that ballot. So for all mail elections. Again, local elections, 90-day cards are not sent. In lieu of that, your actual ballot is sent. And that's why you will see that uh, the voter then gets that ballot, has the option to exercise using that, voting it. And again, as I like to say, at your new polling place called your couch, and mailing it back, voting it at your new polling place called your couch, dropping it off if you don't want to mail it, or disregard that ballot, use it as a sample ballot, educate yourself, and come vote early in person or on election day, which is called replacement balloting for 100% all mail election. So yes and no.
Okay, we have two cards, right? Two cards. Have a party card and pick a party card. That's my favorite part of the 90-day card.
That is our internal calling, because you're right, Scott. So if you're a registered voter with a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and now no labeled, theoretically you have a party. So we would send you a card. You don't get to pick a different party. So the pick a party is a special mailing that has a section for those unaffiliated independent voters to allow them to select or designate the political party ballot they want for that August primary.
And then for those voters that aren't on the active early voting list, for a voter that we will have those polling places or vote centers, we do send that sample ballot out a couple weeks before that to those households. So then they're informed of where their closest voting locations are, and they get an actual copy, a sample ballot that they can be prepared to use when they show up to vote in person.
Exactly right. And all of this, and we always make a major plug for our beballotready.vote. Make a one-time request and you'll be able to see if you're on that ABLE list, see what addresses we have on file ahead of this 90-day card, resident and mailing, and also and make that request. Let's say you are traveling and you normally don't vote by mail, but you want a ballot by mail. That gives you that option. Again, beballotready.vote.
Great answer, Ray.
So I have the next one, or the next question, and it's for you, Scott. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. What are write-in and withdrawn candidates?
Another very good question and aptly timed. Now, there are no write-in candidates on our current ballot for this upcoming November jurisdictional elections, but many of the elections in 2024 will have write-in candidates, and there will be some potentially withdrawn candidates as well. But it's first good to understand, how does a candidate get their name on the ballot itself? Right. So at the beginning of any general election year, so in 2024, that is a general election year, it will be a presidential year as well. So we calculate, and this is all prescribed for by law as well, signature requirements at the beginning of that calendar year. So in early January, based on voter registration numbers, we'll be calculating the number of signatures that are required for a candidate to go out and collect to then be added, have their name added to the ballot. And they need to turn in those signatures at 120 days before the election. So that's going to be in early April for the August primary election, and then that will be in July for the November general election ballot. So if that candidate is able to go get a sufficient number of signatures to get on the ballot, their name will be on the ballot. But then state law prescribes for and allows for candidates that miss that signature filing period. They can also be a qualified candidate on the ballot. They would have to file a write-in petition and file all of that paperwork with the filing officer. So if it's a statewide office, it's a federal office, that's going to be the Secretary of State. If it's going to be a countywide office, which we'll have many on the ballot in 2022, that filing officer is here at the elections department. So they file that paperwork, and then they'll be an official write-in candidate, which will mean that their name won't be on the ballot. But if a voter writes in that name, that means that we will then tally those votes for that write-in candidate, and then we'll publish those results as part of the canvass, right? So and then at every voting location, we will have a list of all the write-in candidates that filed by the write-in filing deadline, which is 40 days before an election. And then we post that list on our website as well. So the second part of that question was about withdrawn candidates. So there are some candidates, as we're able to get all the signatures required, file that information by the filing deadline, and then have their name placed on the ballot. But for whatever reason, maybe they've decided that they no longer want to run, or some other reason that disqualifies them from being on the ballot, their name will still remain, right? Because we have to print those ballots several weeks and well over a month before the election to get them mailed out to all those voters. So their name will remain on the ballot, but they are an official withdrawn candidate. And we'll post those on our website as well as at the voting locations. And then we will not tally results for if a voter does vote for that candidate that's withdrawn. We will not tally those results and report those results because it's no longer considered a valid vote for that candidate because they've officially withdrawn. So that's pretty much the answer to. And thank you for those questions about our write-in candidates and our withdrawn candidates. And we thank you for tuning in to our Election Connection video series.
And don't forget to submit your questions in Just the Facts newsletter next month, where we'll answer more of your elections questions that matter most to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.